Hey, what's up, guys? You're listening to the It Takes a Village podcast. I'm Ashley, your host. This is where the struggles are real, the callings are heavy, the kids are sticky. We come together because it takes a village, and this is your tribe. Hey, what's up, guys? Today I'm hanging out with Kendra Hennessy, CEO and founder of Mother Like a Boss, and we are talking about the negative connotation of the word homemaking or homemaker and how we can delegate things around the house better that will make our lives easier. You guys, she is the master at managing your household, so I can't wait for you guys to tune in to our conversation. Let's get to it. Hey, Kendra, I am so excited to have you on the podcast. As a now, I guess, is it like a podcast groupie? That sounds really weird though, but like as a dedicated listener to your new podcast that you have that is awesome, Mother Like a Boss, and you have the blog and all these things. I'm really excited to have you on today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. And I am a podcast groupie for a lot of people, so I think that's a fantastic way to describe it.
Okay. Okay, good. I was like, I don't know. Where do you draw the line of weird things that you say to people? Yeah. Before we get started, I would love for you to give the listeners an idea a little bit about who you are, what you do, and what life kind of looks like for you right now.
Sure. So I'm Kendra Hennessy. I'm the CEO and founder of Mother Like a Boss. And I live in upstate New York right now with my two children. I have an 11-year-old daughter and a 5-year-old son, and my husband of it'll be 11 years next week. So we live a pretty simplistic, very Americana life here in upstate New York, and it's fun and it's wonderful. I'm a Girl Scout co-leader, and we're just living very full lives, as you can imagine, with two kids. So Mother Like a Boss sort of started 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago. I owned a cleaning business before that. So I started a cleaning business when I was 22. I was pregnant. My husband and I were not married yet, and I just dropped out of college. So it's my really awesome story that I like to tell about how really not a great time to start a business, but I didn't know any better. And I always say that it's my naivete that made me so successful because I didn't know any better. I didn't know I was supposed to fail, so I just didn't. But over the years of having that cleaning business, and it was pretty successful, I realized a few things. One, I couldn't do that forever because it wasn't scalable. Yeah. And it's also extremely physically demanding to do that 5 days a week, hours and hours on end. So, and then also I realized that I wanted to have a better way to serve my clients, and most of them were moms. Overwhelming majority were moms. And what I was finding is that they were very stressed that I was coming over to their house, even though you would think it would be the other way around. But what was happening is the rest of their home wasn't really managed very well. And so me coming over was just an added thing on the list. Like now I have to scramble to pick up all of the stuff in the house. I have to move stuff from one room to another so she can clean this room. And it just, people would cancel at the last minute. It was just very stressful. And I thought there has to be a better way for me to kind of serve moms. And so that's where Mother Like a Boss started. That's the very quick version of it. And I just decided to take my, at the time, it was 9 years as a mom, and my cleaning knowledge, my home management knowledge, my organization knowledge, kind of put it all together and just create a space for the homemaking term to get a new revamped, refreshed definition, where it could be a place where we could have conversations about motherhood and homemaking, where it wasn't about servitude, but it was more about just stuff that you have to do in your home. Somebody's got to do it. So if it's going to be you, let's make it easier. So that's really what it's all about.
Yeah. And congrats on being married for 11 years next week. That's a huge thing. But it's so funny that you mentioned that, how women would feel stressed, when you would come to their home to clean, because I've heard so many women say that, oh, my cleaning lady's coming over tomorrow. I've got to pick up. And for me, I've never hired anybody to clean. So I'm like, okay, let me make that make sense in my head. Why, you're paying her to clean your house, but you're going to pick up before she cleans. And then I've also heard them say, what do I do when she's here? Is it weird if I'm there? Can I talk to her? It's just this weird space of we don't know what to do when we invite somebody into our home to clean our home. That's so funny to me.
Yeah, that was that used to happen, and then like moms or I mean, I did have clients that weren't moms too, but like moms, they would be like, okay, well, my kids are at school and like maybe I have the day off from work, or maybe they were a stay-at-home mom or something. Their kids was at preschool and they were like, am I allowed to be here? And I was like, honey, it's your house. You're allowed to do whatever you want. You're not going to bother me. This is my job. I'm used to everything. I've seen everything. What was like the people who had the biggest, like they didn't know what to do with themselves were husbands.
Yeah.
They literally had no idea like where to, it was like I was a foreign person in there, like I was an alien. They didn't know what to do. Like, do I look at her? Do I talk to her? I was like, I'm just here to clean. I'm not here to do anything else. Like, it's okay. So yeah, it was, and I think it really comes down to that. At our core, most of us as women still believe that we shouldn't need help. So then we don't know what to do with ourselves when we do have the help. We're like, oh, should I help her? It's like, no, that's what you're paying me to do.
Right.
So yeah, I think it comes
so
down.
True. That makes a lot of sense, because asking for help is not our favorite thing to do.
No, moms aren't always very good at it.
No, that's so, okay. So when did you realize though that you like really had the skills for this? Because there is a difference between like, I could clean my house, that's fine. But like to the level of like managing all the things and having organization and all this, like you have to actually know what you're doing, besides like I need soap and water, like
right.
So how did you realize that like you could really give women some insight on like some of these tips and tricks that you have in your toolbox?
So it's funny because it started out me not really knowing what Mother Like a Boss was going to be. I just knew I had like a general mission that I wanted to accomplish, but it was through people in my own life telling me, hey, you're really good at this, you should teach that, or you're really good at that, you should teach it. And then also like my audience asking me questions and me answering them and them saying like, wow, I never thought of that. And to me, it was like, oh, I just thought that was like something I had learned, and not even like common knowledge, just, oh, I had learned that over the years. I just assumed every mom learned that over the years. And that's really what all businesses are, is they're taking what seems easy to you and giving it to people.
Yeah.
But I think that when I had my son, a big part of my story that people that follow me know is that I suffered through a lot of postpartum anxiety. I didn't really have depression, but I became very anxious. And what I realized over time was that the anxiety came from the fact that with my daughter, my first was very easy. Yeah. And so I was really getting away from the joke of like the first is the best. I was really lured into a false sense of security, because I just thought this is how motherhood is. It's easy. I don't know what everyone else is complaining about. Motherhood's easy. I don't think it's that hard. Yeah. Like I really thought that. And it was only me and her a lot, because my husband had, he has a business, and at the time he was growing that business. So it was just my daughter and myself a lot. So I didn't really have a whole lot of routines. I didn't really have a whole lot of like systems in place, because I didn't need them.
Yeah.
And then I had my son, and it was like my whole world came crashing down, because I realized I had no idea what I was doing.
Yeah.
And I was like, I thought I was this great mom, and really I just was blessed with a really great kid.
Yeah.
So I really learned a lot that first year that he was born. And I just wanted to preach that all over the world. Like, you do not have to, whether you have 2 kids or 20 kids, you don't have to live in this state of like chaos, and you don't have to live, that doesn't have to be your default setting for motherhood. And so I just wanted to teach people what I had learned the hard way, so that they didn't have to learn it that way.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that. My daughter was one of those who, like, I never had to tell her not to run away or like not, she just stayed by me. Like, I would set her down, and even as a baby, she wouldn't crawl off. She would just like play around my feet. My second born though is a boy, and he is very strong-willed, and he is very much a physical, like, has to be outside, needs to run, needs to tackle, needs to like do all, like, and if you tell him no, it's like that's a challenge, like, so it's totally a different life with him around, for sure. So I want you to share with everybody kind of what you teach in your courses online. What are some of the things that you are sharing with everybody, because as far as the word like homemaker, I think that comes across as different for everybody. And like you said, it has this like kind of stigma to it that some people kind of attach to it. And so just so you can clear that up and talk about, all the things that you share, I would love for you to break that down for us.
Sure. No, I completely agree about the word homemaker because there's an undertone of servitude in
Yeah.
there. Like it's your duty. You have to do it. You have to do it a certain way. There's very perfectionistic beliefs
Yeah.
about homemaking. And
Mm-hmm.
homemaking to me is just cultivating a home. That's all it is. It's just cultivating a home that feels safe and happy and warm and comfortable and enjoyable to you.
Yeah.
Everybody's is going to be different and everyone's going to feel differently about that. To some people, that means more cooking and cleaning. To other people, that means travel. That means having kids that are involved in a lot of different activities and being the family that kind of like does lots of things, because a home is different than a house.
Mm-hmm.
So I always kind of teach people to get their house under control so they can enjoy their home. And so I kind of developed this word homemaker ish, which is like, it's like a play on word. It's a little tongue in cheek too, but it's really like I always tell people the ish at the end is your permission to do it your way, to not be perfectionist about it.
Yeah.
And it's really home management. It's how can I manage my home and make it so that I don't have to be the one doing everything. I really am on, like, my mission kind of comes down to giving moms the tools they need to become the CEO of their house versus the manager of their house, because a CEO is the one that is up making the really important decisions, but making sure that the people underneath them are doing the jobs too. And I'm big on delegation. You won't find me teaching moms how to do all the things. I'm going to be teaching you how to learn the things so that you can teach your children how to do them as well.
Yeah.
I'm big on delegation. I'm big on delegation to your spouse. And we talk about that a lot in my courses, how to get past some of the antiquated feelings that come along with husbands sometimes who maybe grew up with a mom who did everything, and
Yeah.
getting away from that and how to do that and how to communicate better there. And so most of my courses, like Homemaker Ish is all about just becoming the CEO of your home and learning more about home management. And then I also flip it over and have a completely other side where I just teach people how to clean. I mean,
Right.
I have a cleaning course that is how to clean. And for years I wanted to do that. And I talked myself out of it because I thought, nobody needs this. Like, this is stupid. Nobody needs to learn how to clean. Everyone just knows how to do this. And if they don't, they'll just hire a cleaner. And it is one of my most popular courses now because so many women were never taught how to do it. They don't know how to do it. They don't know what to use. They don't know how to use the products that they do have. They don't know how to use things that are DIY and more natural. They don't know how to go down the Target aisle and pick out the right things. They don't even know what's the best way to clean different stains and clean different kinds of countertops. They don't know that. And when you don't know how to do that, it makes managing your house very difficult because now you're stressed. And the more stressed you are about something, then it's going to make the doing of something very hard. I liken it to, if you didn't know how to tie your shoes properly, then it would make running very hard. So if you want to be a runner and you want to run, it would make it very hard if you didn't know how to tie your shoes. And so you have to get down to the basics sometimes to make the rest of it a lot easier. So those are kind of the two avenues that I go down with people, is like the actual management of the home, the mindset. We talk about mindset a lot. And then also like the very tactical parts of, here's a toilet, how do you clean it? Because I think both are needed. So
that's awesome. No, and that's true because, I think that there was a point to where, a long, long time ago, that was all women handed down to their children, was like, this is how you clean and this is how you cook and you do all these things. And then there was a big gap of like, no, we shouldn't do that, or, all these things. And then to where we couldn't find the balance of like, it's good to know how to do this, because even if you don't do it for somebody else, like, you need to do it for yourself. Because if you have your own home, your own apartment or your own house, like, not everybody can afford to clean, have somebody come in and clean your toilet for you. You have to know how to do it and all these things. And so, yeah, even when I think about, my daughter now, she's like asking me, how do I use the oven? I'm like, okay, like we have to do this. Like, despite that I don't want a mess to be made, like we have to do this. Like this has to be done. Yeah.
Our kids sound very similar because my daughter just asked me how to make pasta the other day. So it's the same thing. I'm like, okay, I guess we're doing this now. And and it's hard sometimes to let go of the control too, because there's the other end of it where it's like, I don't want my kids to do it because they're not going to do it as good as me. Yeah. And I always say, you either want it done or you're going to have to do it. Like, I would rather have it done than done perfectly, because if I don't have to do it, then that's one less thing that I have to worry about doing. My daughter does her own laundry. She has for 3 years. I taught her how to do it. She does all of it herself. And does she put her stuff away that I would? No, it kind of looks ridiculous the way she folds her clothes, but I'm like, it's not my room. It's not my clothes. I don't have to deal with it. So it's one less thing off my plate. So I'm all about teaching your kids how to do it and then just letting them do it. As long as it's safe, the way they're doing it is safe, just letting them do it. And then it's off of your plate and you have more time to enjoy your life.
Yeah, I really like that you had said that, like becoming the CEO of your house and not the manager. Yeah. And how did you start that process of, like, did you know from day one with your firstborn that this is the plan? Like, you wanted your kids to be ultra involved in like doing all the things, or was this something like partially way through that you were like, wait a minute, I can't do all these things. Everybody needs to participate. Like, how did you start to implement your children as a part of the home?
Yeah, that's a really good question. As you were asking, I was actually thinking about that. So I think part of it for me, at least, was that I have a husband that doesn't come from a background of mommy did everything for me kind of thing. He actually doesn't do that. He came to me like trained. That my mother-in-law, like, he knew how to do his own laundry. He cooked his own food. He dealt with his own bills. He knew how to do all of that because, she was a single mom at certain times and she was working a couple of jobs. And so he and his sister had to learn how to do it themselves. And so I think that helped too, because we both are very independent and we wanted our children to have those same qualities. We wanted to make sure that they weren't just, beholden to us for everything, that if you want something, you can learn how to do it yourself. That's how I learned how to do my laundry, because I remember I was probably around that like 10 or 11 age. And I just was like, I wanted to wear that shirt. And like, my mom was like, so do your own laundry and then you can have your shirt whenever you want it. And really it was like, if you want those things, be independent. And so I think it was partially just the way that I was brought up and the way my husband was brought up. And then also, to be honest, and not that I'm calling any like clients out by name. It's just in general, over 10 years, I had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of clients. I was seeing some of the backlash of not getting your kids involved and what happens when you don't, and what happens when chores are not a priority, and what happens when you do everything for your kids. They end up with the rooms that are an absolute disaster and areas that are a disaster, and they never help, and they complain and they whine and they don't do anything. And I just didn't want that. I did not want that for my house. I wanted everyone to be involved. I view chores as just a team effort. Like if everyone puts in the effort, then we all get to go enjoy something. If it takes me all day to clean the house, then we don't get to go out and do fun things. If it takes us an hour to clean the house because we all pitched in, then guess what we get to do? Go out and enjoy our day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you get your kids to not whine and complain about, like, is that even possible that they don't want to complain about cleaning with you?
First, I mean, I always say that it's just a day-to-day thing. Kids complain about brushing their teeth too, but they still have to brush their teeth. So I guess I look at it more, right? Like, I view it more like holistically. So we don't make chores a punishment in our house. It's not a punishment for being bad. It's just a part of living. And one of my, I was trying to explain this like months ago, and I was like, what is the way I can explain it? I thought, okay, cleaning your house is not a punishment for living there any more than brushing your teeth is a punishment for eating. Like you're there, you lived, you have a beautiful full life where you have toys and food and all these clothes and towels and all these things that create a mess when you use them. And so the backside of that is that you have to clean it up. Just like when you eat food and you consume food, then you have to brush teeth to maintain your teeth so that you can eat food in the future. And we view chores so backwards, I think, now in our country, where it's they're like a punishment. Like, well, you're bad, so you have to clean up. And we just, from the start, cleaning was just something that was more fun.
Yeah.
It was like, hey, let's get them involved. And part of that is just making it fun for them, throwing on music, doing timers and alarms, like, hey, let's see how fast we can get this done. Giving them their own tools and like supplies, making a little tool caddy for them, because then they feel like they're involved versus they're being told what to do. So I just view it as like, hey, if you can help, look, now you can help mommy do this because you have your own little squirt bottle, and just making it more of like, we've made a mess and now we clean it up. Some days, still to this day, my 5-year-old many days likes to help, and then some days it's just like no bueno for him. He does not want to do anything. Nope, don't want to do it. Yeah. So every day is just if you can, I feel like if I'm getting 80% of the time, I'm doing pretty well. Yeah. And that's good enough for me.
Yeah, for sure. What is one thing that you, like, now that you've kind of gotten your own system, you're in your own like groove of things, what is one thing in regards to like managing your home, keeping it organized or whatever that you like cannot live without right now?
Oh, so I would say an actual tool that I use every single day is Trello. I use Trello for my entire life. Like my entire life is organized on Trello. If it went away tomorrow, I don't know what I would do with my life. So that's become super important for me, to actually organizing my entire life, just because I can keep things very visual. And for those that don't know, it's just like a visual organization tool. It's like, somebody said it's like Evernote and Pinterest had a baby. It's kind of just, it goes together. Yeah. But yeah, it's been super important for my life. And then on that note, same with Google Calendar, because we have so much going on now. Now that I have 2 kids that are involved in things, just having the ability to open something up on my phone and see visually how our day is mapped out, where we're going, what we have to do, has just been really, really integral to us being on time for everything and us like not overbooking. And so really from that standpoint, it really has helped me manage our lives, because I can see everything mapped out visually.
Oh, girl. Like, I just now switched from a paper planner this past year to Google Calendar. I had Yvonne Marcus on the podcast earlier in the year, and after she was talking to me, I was like, wait a minute. How do I do that? Like, what? I need to learn how to. And I was a diehard paper planner. I love to write it out. For some reason, I felt like it helped me remember all the things. But then, me too. Like now I have 2 kids, and then my husband has a schedule, and now, podcasting, I have a schedule. And so he needed to know what I was doing and vice versa. Plus we had both the kids' schedules and da-da-da-da-da. And I realized that I was not bringing my paper planner everywhere with me because it's freaking heavy. And so I was like, I need to force myself. And it was not natural for me to open up an app and to remember to look and like all these things. But now it's like the first thing that I do in the morning, and it's super easy. And I'm so glad that I did it.
We could have been separated at birth. I'm telling you, because this is my whole life. Like, I was paper planner up until about a year and a half ago. Like, I just, even in when I had my cleaning business, I would put things, I didn't even use Google Calendar. I used like another app, and I would just put things on there so that I remembered, but I still use like a regular paper planner that I got at Target. And I just thought, I can never just have an app. Like, I can't do that. That's not me. I like to write things out. And now I can't imagine going back to writing my entire life out in a paper planner. Like, I still have my simplified planner. I like my simplified planner, but I use it more for long-term, like big picture stuff. So looking at months ahead and just looking at the months and being able, because there is something about visually being able to like hold a calendar in your hand and look ahead. But other than that, I don't sit and write out every day like, I have this podcast interview at this time. Like, I don't do that.
No. I was missing podcast interviews because I was I wouldn't look. See, I'm one of those that's like, if it's another thing, I feel like I have to rebel against it. So, so I'm like, oh,
Right.
you're asking me to get another app? No, I will not. Like over
That
my
was me in
dead
the
body, I'll
beginning.
prove you wrong.
Exactly.
So I've heard, and like you've mentioned this before, you coined the term homemaker ish, and I've seen you talk about how you also apply that to motherhood. So what do you mean by that, and like how has that approach made parenting easier for you?
Yeah, I think the way that I apply it to motherhood is that I look at being a mom and a homemaker sort of as like one big thing that I do. It's like one big job that I
Yeah.
have. And so really when I'm talking about being homemakerish, it's more of like you can do it your way, you can be imperfect, you can like do it 80% great most of the time, and then 20% if it's crap, it's okay. And I kind of look at motherhood the same way.
Yeah.
Like motherhood is we're all just learning as we go. It's one of those like you're learning, it's on the job training. You're just constantly learning, and it's always a new season, which is beautiful about motherhood and also the scary
Yes.
thing. Because once you have one thing down, you're like, oh, I got this season down, and then like now they're in a new season of life, and you're like,
yeah.
okay, now we're relearning. So I just view it as constant learning, and then if we can have an approach where we're more embracing of the season we're in and more embracing of the routines and just having some things in place that make it easier, and not worrying about what your neighbor is doing or what your mom did when you were growing up or your best friend, just kind of staying in your own lane. I found that makes motherhood a lot easier for me because it can get really, really rough, especially with social media, to constantly compare yourself to everyone's, highlight reel. And just being able to stay in my own lane has helped a lot. And then another part of the homemakerish thing that I talk about a lot is getting out of martyrdom, which is a thing that moms fall into a lot. And it's honestly become its own, it's become a craze. It really has become a fad where it's this like, oh, motherhood is so hard. It's the hardest thing ever. Like, don't worry if you haven't showered in 2 weeks. It's because you're a mom, right? Like everything is just that way. And we even have like signs at Home Goods that are like, good moms have dirty ovens and sticky floors. And it's like, what? Why do good moms need to have sticky floors? I don't understand what the two have anything to do with each other. And we've sort of perpetuated the mommy martyrdom. And so I'm really I'm the opposite of that, where I'm trying to teach that you don't have to be a martyr and you don't have to be perfect either. You can fall somewhere in between where you're giving your all and you're doing what you can, but you're not trying to be Martha Stewart. Unless you want to be Martha Stewart. Unless you do and you love that kind of stuff, and then that's okay.
Good luck to you, because that is not me.
Yeah, no.
Okay, so I want to share some tips with some of the listeners listening, because I think that the thing that we struggle with is like, how do we get it all done in the day? So if you could share for, I don't know, you can either decide for like stay-at-home moms, or I know that working moms, this like my heart, I don't even know how they do it all that work outside the home. They have a 9-to-5 job, and then, they come home and their kids want them, and they also have to cook dinner, and then their house is a mess. What like would be a couple tips, or like maybe one or two that you could share with them for them not to lose their mind, but to kind of get their foot in the door of like, okay, I can handle this. Like this will get me by.
Yeah, I completely understand that, because before I worked at home, I had the business, and I was outside of the house, and it's tough. And some days you're exhausted. You come home and especially if you have any kind of physical job, it's exhausting.
Yeah.
So for me, it came down to utilizing the time that I did have. So for me, it was like the mornings where if I could get up an hour earlier, and I know that there's some moms out there that are like, oh, I already get up at 6. And it's like, well, you have to make a decision. Do you want to get this stuff done, or do you want to complain about it? Like if you're fighting for your limitations, you're going to get to keep them. There's always an alternative. It just may not be the one you want. So you kind of have to work with the season you're in. And, if you wake up a little bit earlier and can get some of that stuff done, throw a load of laundry in the morning. That's one of the things that saved me is I do laundry at night, actually. So I throw a load in at night, and then right before I go to bed, I put it in the dryer so that when I wake up in the morning, there's already a load of laundry that's dry. Now all I have to do is put it away. That's a 15-minute job at most, usually 10 or less. We make laundry so much bigger than it has to be. The other thing is delegating. Like, unless you have infants in the house, which no, I don't advise you give infants chores.
Right.
Like this is like not a good idea. But if I talk to moms sometimes and they're like, well, I have an 8-year-old and a 10-year-old and a 13-year-old. And I'm like, okay, well, what do they do? And they're like, oh, well, they're involved in a lot of extracurriculars. I'm like, I don't care. They're at home. Are they making a mess? They're still making a mess. They should be able to clean it up. And so really delegating to your kids and making it a family thing, making it something. So when people say like, oh, the dinner time is so crazy. And I think, why doesn't everyone have a job? If you're getting dinner on the table, then someone else should be setting the table and someone else should be cleaning up and someone else should be maybe prepping something for dinner, and then vice versa. Now dinner's done. Good. Someone puts the leftovers away and someone fills the dishwasher, and making it something. Even a 2-year-old can do that. Even a 2-year-old can help, but it starts with little things. So just figuring out, I always say, like, figure out what the domino is. Like, what's the task that you could teach your kids to do right now that would help to alleviate some of the stress on you. And then if you have the funds, I always say, hire somebody to help you with some stuff, even if it's not cleaning. Maybe it's something else. Maybe you get a meal service once a month, or maybe you get a mommy's helper to come in and entertain the kids while you're doing some of the cleaning. Just figuring out ways that you can utilize delegation to just take some of the burden off of yourself so that you're not having to do it all.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's so good. Are you a big believer of like making chore lists for your kids, or is it kind of like an open opportunity of like, when the time comes, hey, can you help me with this? Or can you do this while your sister does that? And I put dinner on the table. Like, how do you manage that?
Yeah, I think that both are super solid ways to do it. We more have routines in our house than we do like chore charts. So it's just like, every day the kids have the chores that they're supposed to do, and we kind of work in blocks. It's like, well, it's the morning, so here's what needs to be done. And then at night, usually by 7:00, it's like the toys need to get put away. And my daughter doesn't really play with toys. She's 11, but my son it's just toy central now at 5.
Yeah.
And so getting those toys put away, and then he's allowed to have like one quiet activity at night. So maybe it's doing Legos at the table, or maybe it's, Play-Doh or something at the table that's like just very easy to clean up right before bed. So for me, it's more about the routines. But if you have older children, usually in the like preteen to teenage, sometimes it's easier to just kind of say, okay, here is a list of things that need to be done each week. You guys get to choose when they get done, but they have to get done. You guys choose. And that works for some people, and for some people it doesn't. You kind of have to know your own family. You have to know if they're going to do it. I've had students that have said, oh my gosh, we have so much success with that. They laminated like a chart, like a checklist, and then put it on the refrigerator. And then it's like a checklist each day or each week of what needs to be done. And that way everyone gets to cycle through. So one person doesn't have to be the garbage person every week. And kids get bored with that after a while.
That's true.
So just letting them choose. But they have to understand that if they're going to do it that way, they have to choose something. Like part of the deal is you have to choose something. You can't go like, okay, well, I put my laundry away and that's all I'm going to do all week. Like they have to choose a certain amount. So I think it really depends on the household, how old your kids are, and if you've implemented chores before. Yeah. That's a big part.
I'm getting really pumped up right now. So I'm like, my kids have no idea what I'm talking about on this podcast. They're in the next room. And I'm like, they have no idea what's about to hit them when I come off this podcast. I'm like, how can I get them to do all the things today? Like, hey, your whole life is about to change.
Right. It's so hard too because I get myself pumped up. Like I'll talk on a podcast like this, or I'll do like a workshop.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to give the kids like way more. They can handle way more now. I've just talked it up. And it's like, I have to remember they're just like little people. Like they're not going to be able to recognize that like this is a big part of our life. And they need one thing at a time. And the other thing I tell moms a lot is don't be afraid of reminders. A lot of moms are like, I just always feel like I have to remind my kids. And I'm like, honey, my whole life is reminders on my, that's all it is. I wouldn't remember to do anything if it weren't for alarms and timers and stuff like that. Don't be afraid of reminders. It doesn't have to be nagging, as long as it's just, I gently remind my kids all the time, hey, remember today's laundry day. She's,
Yeah.
oh, right. Okay, right. It's just, sometimes it's just that gentle reminder that we all need. I mean, I have to remind my husband, hey, it's Friday, it's garbage day.
Right.
You have to remind adults too. So just don't be afraid of reminding either. We all need it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, mommy brain is not a thing because we can remember everything. It's definitely because we need reminders.
If it's not on my Google Calendar, it is not happening. It will not happen. I write everything in there because if I've thought before, oh, that's so small, I don't need to write that in there. And for sure, I forget it. So it has to be written down.
Well, I wanted to say this has been really awesome, and I can't wait to check out all your things. And everybody should definitely go and check out your podcast. Mother Like a Boss is really good.
Yeah.
So before we get off, though, I want to ask you some few last questions.
Yeah.
If you could choose one of the most influential books or podcasts or whatever that you've listened to lately, what would it be?
Okay, so one of my favorite books of all time, I was going to say, is You Are a Badass by Jen Sincero, which I recommend to everybody. I did a whole podcast episode on it. It's amazing. But what I'm going to switch it and say, one of the ones that I've read most recently is The 5-Second Rule by Mel Robbins. If you're someone that struggles with motivation, if you're someone that struggles with actually implementing, doing the thing you've been saying you were going to do for a month, a year, 10 years, the 5-second rule is so good. It really is just kind of it's like a kick in the butt. If you're sensitive to language, she's an adult and she says that. Yeah. I'm an adult and this is an adult book and you're an adult. But it's fantastic. It's such a beautiful book, and it really it helps so much if you're just someone that finds motivation to be something that you're lacking and just kind of need that extra kick every day. It was a great book for that. I really enjoyed it.
It's like that girlfriend that really well that calls you on your crap all the time.
Yes. Yes, and she is very straightforward in the book. She's very blunt. The reason that she wrote the book is because she struggled with it for years. She talks about her story and how just down she was and how she didn't do anything and she felt like a loser and all that. So it's coming from a place of, I've been there, girl. Stop it. So yeah, it's just it's a good kick in the pants.
What is your favorite form of self-care or something that you love to do that really fills you up?
I love to go out with a girlfriend out for brunch. That's my favorite.
Brunching.
I love brunching. I love the act of brunching. Yeah. It's amazing. I just love the act of being able to go out with someone and not with my children and not even my husband, because that's a whole other relationship that I have. I want to just go out with a friend and be with a friend and talk about girl things and women things. Or sometimes it's a friend that's also in business, so we get to just chat about business stuff. And it's just, it refreshes me and it fills me up and I just feel really good about myself afterward. And then I also love TV. And I know there's a lot of people out there who TV is bad, and I love TV. I love it. And so when I get to watch TV by myself, it's amazing and I love it very much.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
So, okay, two things though I want to ask you now. How did you give yourself permission, or did you ever feel like you had to give yourself permission to do things like brunch with a friend? Because I know that it is a struggle for a lot of women to leave their house. They do not want to, or they want to, but they never do. So how did you start making that a priority?
Yeah. I've been asked this question before, and I will be really honest that 2 years ago, I was asked this question and I kind of made up an answer because I felt guilty. You want to talk about guilt? I felt guilty because I don't have any guilt. And so I've made up answers in the past, I really journaled on it or thought about it. I don't have mom guilt. I just don't. It's one of those, I don't know if it's just because of the way I was raised. My mom just was such a good mom and she was so amazing, but she always made time for herself. She always went to fitness classes when she wanted to and went out with friends. And I didn't really see see that I wasn't allowed to do that. And maybe because I was a young mom,
Yeah.
none of my friends had kids yet. So I just would go, and we would go to like get-togethers at a friend's house, not like a party, like a
Yeah.
rager, but like a get-together. And you just bring Ava
Come
with
on,
us.
waste it. Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't do any of that. Like we just would go over to a friend's house for dinner, and none
Yeah.
of them had kids. They were like, bring Ava along, it's fine. And so I just never really thought about the fact that I was supposed to give 100% of myself to someone 100% of the time. Like I know that if I did that, I would burn out really quick and I would be an
Yeah.
awful mom. And I know when I have done that in the past, I am not very nice to my kids, and I don't want to be like that.
Yeah.
I don't want to be the martyr. I don't want to be the mom that's like, oh, I just have to do everything for my kids.
Yeah.
My kids don't need me 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They need me to be my best. And the way I'm my best is by taking care of myself.
Okay, so we got off, but I just felt like I needed to. And I love that you're so transparent about that, because that's true, that not like, I admire the fact that that's not a struggle for you, like, because I have to work through that. So, and other moms can relate to the fact that they don't have. And I think that, okay, we're just going to get off on a tangent here.
Yeah.
I just like feel like that for moms who don't have the mom guilt, they also feel guilt for not having mom guilt.
It's 100% true. I feel guilty when I hear some of my students talk about it, and they describe their guilt, and it's always like from this loving, compassionate place for their kids. And I am not kidding when I say I have cried before, because I'm like, maybe I don't love my kids as much as everyone else.
Yeah,
Like why do we fall? Dads don't deal with it?
Yeah.
Men do not deal with this. Like
No.
dads just like show up and they dad and they parent and they don't feel this. Like dads aren't sitting there like talking to other dads like, well, don't you feel guilty for going to work and leaving your babies? Like they don't talk
That is so
about
true.
that.
Yeah.
What is that? It's like, why do moms do this to ourselves? It's so crazy.
Either way, we're all good moms. We got this.
Exactly.
Oh, gosh. So true.
Yeah.
All right. So my last question for you is, if you could empower women in one way, what would it be?
Oh my God. One way?
I know. It's a big question.
That's a big question. I think that I would empower moms by letting them know that they are allowed to be the kind of woman, the kind of mother, the kind of wife, the kind of whatever that they want to be, without the restrictions of society or their past. Because I find that both of those things are shackles on women. Either it's society, what they think society has told them, or what their past, what their upbringing, what the school that they went to.
Yeah.
All of those things make us feel like we're supposed to fit into this box, and you are allowed to be the woman that you want to be. And if you're a woman that has chosen like, yeah, motherhood's not for me, like that's an okay path to go down, and you don't have to feel like you have to be a mom. And if you are a mom, you don't have to feel like you have to fit into this mom box. And I just feel like we would be so much better as collectively as women if we just realized that we were all allowed to be the woman that we want to be.
Yeah. Preach. Oh my gosh. So good. I'm like, yes.
Thank you.
Hey guys, hope you liked that episode. Hope it was helpful and you feel like you can manage your household a little bit better moving forward after listening to this episode. Make sure you go and review and rate the It Takes a Village podcast on iTunes. And hey, we are all about supporting women here and each other. So make sure you head on over to Mother Like a Boss and shoot her a rating and review as well. And I look forward to catching you guys next time. Bye.